Elena Vasquez grew up in the mountains of Colorado, where silence was her first language and patience her greatest teacher. Her father, a retired Marine, taught her to shoot when she was 12. By 15, she could hit a target at 800 yards in crosswinds that would challenge veteran hunters. When she enlisted at 18, her drill sergeants quickly realized they had something special on their hands. The Army's sniper school was brutal. Of the 47 candidates who started, only 8 graduated. Elena was the only woman. She excelled not because she was the strongest or the fastest, but because she understood something her male counterparts struggled with, the art of disappearing. While they focused on the technical aspects of long-range shooting, Elena mastered the mental game. She could remain motionless for hours, controlling her breathing, her heartbeat, even her thoughts. Her first deployment was to Afghanistan, where her unit was tasked with providing overwatch for convoys moving through the dangerous Kunar province. The terrain was unforgiving. Jagged mountains, deep valleys, and endless places for insurgents to hide. Elena's spotter, Sergeant Marcus Chen, was initially skeptical about working with a female sniper. His doubts vanished after their first week in country. During a routine convoy protection mission, Elena spotted movement in a cave system nearly a mile away. Through her scope, she watched as insurgents prepared to launch an RPG at the passing vehicles below. The shot was nearly impossible, uphill, through swirling mountain winds, with moving targets partially concealed by rock formations. Elena calculated the variables in seconds, controlled her breathing, and squeezed the trigger. The insurgent fell, and the convoy passed safely. Word of her skills spread quickly through both friendly and enemy forces. The insurgents began calling her the Ghost because they never saw her coming. Allied forces requested her unit specifically for the most dangerous missions. Elena took pride in her work, knowing that each successful shot meant soldiers would return home to their families. But success in war often comes with a price. During her 4th month in country, Elena's luck nearly ran out. Her unit was providing overwatch for a special operations raid on a suspected weapons cache in a remote village. Elena had positioned herself on a ridge overlooking the target building, with Chen spotting for her. The raid was supposed to be quick and quiet, but intelligence was wrong. The village was heavily defended. As gunfire erupted below, Elena began picking off insurgents who threatened the assault team. She had successfully eliminated 3 targets when she saw a child, no more than 8 years old, run into her line of fire just as she was about to take her 4th shot. Elena held her fire, but the delay cost her. An enemy sniper, hidden in a mosque minaret, had been tracking her muzzle flashes. His shot struck the rock just inches from Elena's head, sending sharp stone fragments into her face and left eye. Blood streaming down her cheek, Elena rolled to new cover. Chen called for immediate medical evacuation, but Elena refused to leave. Through her damaged scope and with vision blurred in one eye, she continued providing support for the assault team below. She couldn't see the enemy sniper clearly anymore, but she could calculate his position from his shots. When he fired again at the assault team, Elena sent a round through the minaret wall where she estimated he was hiding. The enemy fire stopped. The mission was ultimately successful, but Elena's injury was serious. The stone fragments had damaged her left eye and scarred her face. At the field hospital, doctors told her she was lucky to be alive. Her commanding officer, Colonel James Rodriguez, visited her bedside and delivered news she dreaded to hear. "Vasquez, you've done outstanding work out here," Colonel Rodriguez said, his voice heavy with regret. "But the docs say your depth perception is compromised. You know what that means for a sniper. We're recommending you for medical discharge and a transfer back to the States." Elena felt her world collapse. Being a sniper wasn't just her job, it was her identity. She had found her purpose in these mountains, protecting her fellow soldiers. The thought of leaving them behind while they continued fighting was unbearable. She begged for another chance, but the decision seemed final. Her injury had marked the end of her combat career before she had even turned 21. During her recovery, Elena spent sleepless nights on her hospital bed, staring at the ceiling and replaying every shot, every mission, every moment that had led her to this point. Other wounded soldiers came and went, some celebrating their ticket home, others struggling with the same sense of loss she felt. Elena watched transport planes take off from the nearby airfield, carrying soldiers back to safety, and wondered if she would be on the next one. The injured eye healed slowly, but the bigger wound was to her spirit. Physical therapy was routine, but the mental challenge of accepting the end of her sniper career seemed impossible. Elena had trained her entire adult life for this role. She had found something she was not just good at, but exceptional at. The idea of returning to civilian life felt like surrender. But Elena Vasquez had never surrendered to anything in her life. As she lay in that hospital bed, an idea began to form. If the doctors wouldn't clear her for duty based on her injury, she would have to prove them wrong. She would show them that she was still the same sniper who had earned the respect of her unit and the fear of her enemies. She would demonstrate that the ghost was far from finished. The real test would come when she convinced her superiors to give her one more chance to prove her worth in combat. Elena's opportunity came 3 weeks later when her unit faced a crisis. Their other sniper had been wounded in an IED attack, leaving them without long-range support for an upcoming operation. Captain Williams, her company commander, visited Elena in the medical tent with a proposition that would change everything. "Vasquez, I know what the doc said about your discharge," Captain Williams began, pulling up a chair beside her bed. "But we're short-handed for tomorrow's mission, and frankly, even with one good eye, you're better than most snipers with two. I can't officially put you back on active duty, but I can use you as an advisor. You'd observe only, no shooting, unless it's life or death." Elena knew this was her chance to prove she could still do the job. She accepted immediately, despite the pain still radiating from her healing eye socket. The next morning, she found herself back on a ridge overlooking enemy territory, this time paired with Corporal James Mitchell, a young sniper from another unit who had been brought in temporarily. The mission was to provide overwatch for a patrol investigating reports of an insurgent training camp in a remote valley. Elena's role was purely observational, helping Mitchell identify targets and calculate ranges. But as the patrol moved into the valley, it became clear they were walking into an ambush. Enemy fighters emerged from concealed positions on 3 sides of the valley. The patrol took heavy fire and was pinned down with no escape route. Mitchell began engaging targets, but he was struggling with the distance and wind conditions. Elena watched through her scope as soldiers below scrambled for cover, some already wounded. "I can't get a clear shot on the machine gun nest," Mitchell said, frustration evident in his voice. "The angle is wrong from here." Elena studied the battlefield through her damaged scope. Her left eye was still healing, making depth perception difficult. But her experience told her there was a solution. She identified a position where a single, well-placed shot could take out the machine gunner who was causing the most casualties. "Let me try," Elena said quietly. Mitchell hesitated. "You're not cleared for combat operations, Vasquez. If something goes wrong, something's already gone wrong," Elena replied, gesturing toward the trapped patrol. "Those are our guys down there." Elena took position behind her rifle for the first time since her injury. The familiar weight of the weapon felt both comforting and foreign. She had to adjust for her compromised vision, relying more heavily on her right eye and years of muscle memory. The target was 900 yards away, partially concealed behind sandbags, and the wind was gusting unpredictably. Through her scope, Elena could see the machine gunner preparing to fire another burst at the pinned patrol. She controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow as she entered the zone that had made her legendary among her peers. The calculation was complex. She had to account for bullet drop, wind drift, and her own visual limitations. But her mind processed the variables with the speed that came from countless hours of training. The shot broke clean, and the machine gunner dropped instantly. The suppressive fire that had trapped the patrol ceased, allowing them to move to better positions and call for extraction. Elena had saved lives with a single bullet, just as she had done dozens of times before her injury. Word of Elena's successful shot reached Colonel Rodriguez within hours. He arrived at the forward operating base the next day, his expression unreadable as he approached Elena's position. She expected a reprimand for violating the restriction on her combat duties, but instead found herself facing a different conversation entirely. "The patrol leader says you saved at least 6 lives yesterday," Colonel Rodriguez said. "Captain Williams tells me you made a shot that his designated marksman couldn't make. The medical board says you're compromised. Help me understand what I'm dealing with here, Vasquez." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Sir, I can still do the job. My left eye isn't perfect, but my right eye is fine, and my experience makes up for any technical limitations. Give me a chance to prove it officially." The colonel studied her for a long moment. "The Army doesn't usually give second chances to snipers, Vasquez. One mistake, one missed shot because of compromised vision, and good soldiers die. Are you absolutely certain you can perform at the level required?" "Yes, sir." "Then we'll test that theory. I'm putting you back on active duty provisionally. You'll undergo evaluation during actual operations for the next month. If you prove you can still perform, the medical discharge recommendation gets withdrawn. If you can't, you go home immediately. Understood?" Elena's return to full duty was met with mixed reactions from her unit. Some soldiers were relieved to have their proven sniper back in action. Others worried that her injury had compromised her abilities and would put them at risk. Elena understood their concerns and knew she would have to prove herself all over again. Her first official mission back was a solo reconnaissance operation. Intelligence suggested that a high-value target, a bomb maker responsible for several IED attacks on coalition forces, was operating from a compound in hostile territory. Elena's job was to confirm his presence and eliminate him if the opportunity presented itself. She spent 2 days moving into position, traveling only at night and hiding during daylight hours. Her damaged eye made night vision more challenging, but Elena adapted by relying more heavily on her other senses and her intimate knowledge of how insurgents moved and hid. On the 3rd night, her patience was rewarded. The bomb maker appeared in the courtyard of the suspected compound. Identifiable by surveillance photos Elena had memorized. The shot was 1,200 yards through an open window, with minimal light and a crosswind. Elena settled into position, controlled her breathing, and made the calculations that had become second nature. The shot was perfect. The high-value target was eliminated, and Elena exfiltrated without detection. When she returned to base, the intelligence officer who debriefed her seemed almost incredulous that she had succeeded despite her injury. Over the following weeks, Elena continued to prove that her skills remained intact. She eliminated insurgent leaders, provided overwatch for dangerous missions, and protected convoys moving through hostile territory. Her reputation, which had taken a hit after her injury, was rapidly being restored. But Elena's success was not going unnoticed by enemy forces. Insurgent communications, intercepted by intelligence units, began referencing increased efforts to locate and eliminate the ghost. A bounty was placed on her head, and enemy snipers were being brought in specifically to hunt her. The cat-and-mouse game that would define the final phase of Elena's deployment was about to begin, and this time, her enemies were just as skilled and determined as she was. The enemy's counter-sniper operation began in earnest during Elena's 7th week back on active duty. Intelligence reports indicated that a highly skilled marksman, known only by the codename Falcon, had been brought in from Chechnya, specifically to eliminate American snipers operating in the region. His reputation was formidable. 12 confirmed kills of coalition snipers across multiple theaters of operation. Elena first became aware of Falcon's presence when her unit was providing overwatch for a supply convoy through a particularly dangerous stretch of road known as Death Valley. She had positioned herself on a ridge overlooking the route, with Chen back as her spotter. The convoy was halfway through the danger area when Chen spotted a muzzle flash from a distant hillside. "Sniper, 2 o'clock, approximately 1,400 meters, Chen whispered urgently. Elena shifted her position and acquired the target area through her scope. She could see the enemy position clearly, a well-concealed hide site that showed professional preparation. But before she could take a shot, the enemy sniper disappeared, leaving behind only disturbed vegetation and the knowledge that someone very skilled was hunting them. Over the next several days, Elena and Falcon engaged in a deadly game of patience and positioning. Each tried to anticipate the other's movements, studying patrol routes and mission schedules to predict where the opposition would appear. Elena changed her patterns, never using the same hide site twice, and varied her approach routes to avoid establishing predictable behaviors. The psychological warfare began with small signs. Elena would arrive at a planned position to find evidence that someone had been there before her. A cigarette butt, disturbed soil, or stones arranged in a pattern that suggested surveillance. Falcon was sending a message. He knew where she had been, and he was always one step ahead. Elena responded with her own psychological tactics. She began leaving false signs of her presence in locations she had never actually used, creating phantom positions that would waste Falcon's time and resources. She also started using multiple hide sites during single operations, moving between positions to confuse any observers trying to track her patterns. The first direct engagement came during a mission to provide security for a forward operating base that had been receiving intermittent sniper fire. Elena positioned herself in an abandoned building overlooking the approaches to the base, while Chen established an overwatch position 200 meters away. As dawn broke over the mountains, Elena detected movement in a tree line 800 meters from her position. Through her scope, she could see a figure in camouflage, carefully positioning what appeared to be a rifle. She was preparing to take the shot when Chen's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Elena, movement to your left, 300 meters. I think there's another shooter." Elena realized instantly that she was looking at a decoy. The real sniper was much closer, probably already drawing a bead on her position. She rolled away from her rifle just as a bullet shattered the window frame where her head had been moments before. The shot had come from a building across the street, not from the tree line where she had been focused. Elena found new cover and tried to locate Falcon's actual position. She caught a glimpse of movement through a window in the building across the street, but by the time she could line up a shot, he was gone. She had underestimated her opponent's skill and tactical awareness, and the mistake had nearly been fatal. That night, Elena lay awake in her bunk, replaying the engagement in her mind. Falcon had demonstrated that he understood her capabilities and was prepared to counter them. He had used her own tactical expertise against her, presenting a target he knew would draw her attention while positioning himself for the killing shot. Elena realized she was facing an opponent unlike any she had encountered before. The final confrontation began 3 days later during what should have been a routine Overwatch mission. Elena's unit was supporting a patrol, investigating reports of an IED factory in an abandoned village. She had positioned herself in the ruins of a mosque on a hill overlooking the target area, choosing the location specifically because it offered excellent fields of fire and multiple exit routes. Elena was scanning the village through her scope when she noticed something unusual. In one of the damaged buildings, someone had arranged stones to spell out a message in English. "Is she still out there?" The message was clearly meant for her. Falcon was not only confirming that he knew about the ghost, but he was taunting her, questioning whether she still had the skills that had made her legendary. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she realized this was more than just a sniper duel. It had become personal. Chen, monitoring communications, suddenly tensed. "Elena, we've got problems. The patrol just found evidence that this village has been abandoned for weeks. There's no IED factory here. This whole mission is a trap," Elena finished quietly. She immediately began scanning for threats, knowing that Falcon had somehow orchestrated this entire scenario to draw her into the open. The shot came from her left, striking the wall just above her head. Elena dropped into cover and tried to locate the shooter's position. Through the dust and debris, she saw muzzle smoke dissipating from a window in a building 400 meters away. But experience told her that Falcon would already be moving to a new position. For the next hour, Elena and Falcon engaged in a deadly chess match across the ruined village. Each would fire a shot and immediately relocate, trying to anticipate where the other would move next. Elena's damaged left eye was becoming a significant disadvantage as the engagement continued and fatigue set in. making it harder to quickly acquire targets and judge distances. Elena was repositioning for what she hoped would be a decisive shot when she heard Falcon's voice echoing across the valley. He was speaking in accented English, his words carrying clearly in the mountain air. "American ghost. You are not what you were before. Your reputation dies with you today." Elena realized that Falcon had been studying her, learning about her injury and her recent return to combat. He was trying to undermine her confidence by questioning her capabilities. But his taunts had an unintended effect. They revealed his position. Elena traced the sound to a specific building and began studying it through her scope. She could see no obvious signs of occupation, but something about the shadows in one particular window didn't look right. Elena controlled her breathing and settled into her shooting position, compensating for her visual limitations through sheer determination and experience. The shot was the most important of Elena's career. Through her scope, she saw Falcon's form crumple and fall. The echo of her rifle shot rolled across the valley, followed by complete silence. When the patrol reached Falcon's position, they found a Syrian marksman with extensive training and equipment provided by foreign fighters. Intelligence documents recovered from his possession revealed that he had been specifically tasked with eliminating American snipers, with Elena identified as his primary target. Colonel Rodriguez's after-action report stated that Elena had eliminated a high-value enemy asset and disrupted a significant threat to coalition forces. But for Elena, the victory was more personal. She had proven to herself and to her enemies that the ghost was indeed still out there, still protecting her fellow soldiers, and still deserving of the reputation that had made her a legend. Elena completed her deployment 2 months later with 27 confirmed kills and dozens of successful Overwatch missions. When she returned to the United States, she was awarded the Bronze Star and recommended for promotion. But more importantly to Elena, she had proven that determination and experience could overcome physical limitations. The question, "Is she still out there?" had been answered definitively. Elena Vasquez, the ghost, had faced her greatest challenge and emerged stronger than ever. Her story became an inspiration to other soldiers, facing their own doubts and limitations, proof that true skill and dedication could overcome any obstacle.